Excited to talk and really understand a little bit more about data insights and action with this panel. Quickly about myself, as Jeff said, CEO and partner of Varsity Partners, and we are a creative consultancy that works through a lot of fan insights and fan strategy to then create either brand solutions, corporate sponsorship solutions, brand storytelling solutions, and then even venue solutions as well. And I guess I will kind of set it up a little bit, and then we'll do introductions, and then we'll take the conversation from there. So overall, the idea of data insights and actions, and I think that now more than ever, companies around the world, even beyond sports, are using data to make better and more informed decisions to create targeted solutions for their customers. And sports really isn't any exception. Data can be applied to every aspect of sports and sports business, from scouting to rankings, to looking at the draft board, all the way through even social media and marketing. And so when we talk about data, we're talking about getting as much information, insights, facts, statistics, anything like that to help inform business decisions. And specifically today with our panel, we'll be talking about collegiate athletics. So overall, we'll be talking a little bit about how data applies to brand, how data applies to fan engagement, sponsorship, marketing, and ticketing as well. So with that, I'll give a quick introduction for everybody, and then I'll kind of pass the mic based on how it looks on my screen. Anybody out there, if you guys have any questions, shoot them over to Destiny. Destiny, if you want to kind of tap me once in a while, if there's any question that pops up, it's a free form conversation, really no wild structure to it. So to start off, we have Pearson Cunningham, and Pearson is business partner of mine and the Chief Innovation Officer for Varsity Partners. And then we also have Nick Konawalik, and Nick Konawalik is the Director of Brand Marketing for the ACC. We have Zack Mckay, who is the Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing for the Charlotte 49ers, my alumni, go Niners. And then we have Kwak, the Assistant Professor and Director of Center for Sport Marketing Research at the University of Michigan. If you can't tell which one that is, his background might give it away a little bit. So what I'll do is, panelists, just to get a little bit of, a little bit more deeper understanding, I'll let you introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about how you got to where you are today through your career path. And so, Nick, let's start off with you. You happen to be the one at the top of the screen.
I thought Pearson was at the top of the screen, so I thought he was going to carry this thing out the gate. But no, I appreciate it. To just give a little bit of background on myself, I'm a graduate of the University of Delaware. I was a soccer player there, so just inherently have been involved in college athletics for a fairly long time. But when I started my professional career in college athletics was as an intern at Princeton University, and just kind of evolved in that role from an intern up to a director of marketing there. And that was back in 2004, was there till 2007. And then made my way over to Charlotte, and was Zack's probably doing better things than I was doing over there, but preceded Zack in the position over at Charlotte, and got to see the kickoff of football over there, which was certainly an exciting experience. But from there, took a sponsorship role for a year with Van Wagner, but really realized that my passion kind of lies in the marketing and branding side of things, and was fortunate enough to land a job with the ACC as the director of brand marketing there. So for me, it's, my path through athletics, just kind of, I've had a lot of exciting experiences, but really ultimately what it's come down to, as most of these folks will attest to, is not only just general willingness and hard work and drive, because anything you're going to do, you need it, but also just a passion for what we all do. And so I fortunately have been places where I've been able to not only demonstrate my hard work, but also my passion for the places that I've been, as well as for marketing and everything that comes with it. Now, I would say I've probably been involved a little longer than most. So for me, it's I've seen this thing evolve from where data analytics were not even a thing to being kind of the main driver for what we're doing today. So excited to chat about it today. I'll turn it back to Tim.
Thanks, man. Zack.
Thank you, guys. So for me, I got my start as an undergrad at University of Louisville. Postgraduate from University of Louisville, I did even more internships, kind of as my progression through the business of just doing internship after internship, trying to navigate my way to a full-time position, just really trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. So I got started there at U of L just as a game day intern with Louisville football and men's basketball, really just toe in the water, game day staff, going in the stands, finding contestants, throwing out T-shirts, just all the fun stuff that you see through a collegiate athletic event. But really, I was able to vet staff that was really good and able to show me more of the behind the scenes of what they do, from the reason why the script was what it was, the reason why promotions were in certain timeouts, and the reason behind what we did. As a college student, just my first few years of college, I was just naive to a lot of things that I just kind of showed up and enjoyed the game, not thinking of all the things that went on behind the scenes. So after U of L, I interned again with the Indiana Pacers. So that was my kind of experience with the NBA, and then also interned with the Indianapolis Indians, which was professional baseball. So I had done collegiate athletics, professional basketball, and professional baseball. And just through all of that, I learned that I really wanted to focus more on collegiate marketing. I just enjoyed being around the students, being around the energy that you have on a college campus. So prior to Charlotte, I was at Purdue Fort Wayne in Fort Wayne, Indiana for several years, and also at Western Kentucky, in my home state of Kentucky for several years. But now here at Charlotte, just finished up year 2, overseeing marketing and video.
And in your kind of time and tenure, how has data evolved? Because Nick mentioned that, at the beginning, not to age you, Nick, but to in the beginning that it really wasn't there when you came in to the collegiate athletics industry. How involved, was data and analytics when you were, thinking about the different marketing things that you were working on at that time?
No, for sure. I mean, when you first got started, we did so many things of the traditional advertising of, we did a lot of billboards, we did a lot of TV spots and radio spots and newspaper ads. And before, traditionally, it was just a lot of casting a wide net, a lot of just, hey, awareness, making sure the community and fans knew when games were, who they were playing, and how to get tickets. But obviously through the years, as we've tried to be more efficient with data. Now it's a lot more digital marketing and paid social posts of now looking at, we spent X amount of dollars and got this many click-throughs for our targeted Facebook ad or our targeted Twitter post. That it's more of a laser focused spend, more of a trying to judge your ROI from dollars spent versus the traditional way of casting a wide net. And by no means have we perfected it, but it's something that we're progressing towards to try to be better on as we just can kind of go through year by year.
Awesome. Pearson.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Pearson Cunningham. As Tim mentioned, I am Tim's partner with Varsity Partners, heading up innovation and general experience projects that we do. My background, I've always loved sports, but never had the success that Konawalik's talking about. I averaged about 2 points a year in Y Basketball League. So when that didn't pan out, I really got into design, and design has always been a passion of mine and something that I always knew I wanted to do, but never really knew what type of design I was going to get into. And so I went to Auburn undergrad and started out majoring in architecture, spent some time in graphic design, and then ended up getting a bachelor's in product design. And so thought I was going to be a product designer, and to an extent I am, but my first job out of school was actually Tim hiring me to do billboard ads. And so I worked with Tim for about a year, working on billboards, and then completely flipped the script and got into e-commerce and did some design work there. Started a company working with brands like Target to sell their products and publishers' apps and publications. And then decided to kind of get back to the things that I loved, and wanted the opportunity to work with my best friends, one, and then also work in sports. And Varsity kind of checked that box for me. A lot of what I do on the day-to-day now is focus more on experiential aspects of the fan experience, general engagement of how to build excitement within fan bases and for our clients. And then also on the brand side, developing and helping out grow brands and brand awareness, building strategy plans, et cetera. And I think what Tim mentioned earlier, what Varsity does, but a little bit more in kind of layman's terms, we do everything from logos for teams, jersey design, graphics you see on stadium walls and the path you take to see them. We create new spaces for fans, and just also ideas around brand partnerships, like how does Doritos impact a tailgate in Las Vegas, all kinds of stuff. So we're really a jack of all trades creative consultancy that deals a lot with fan engagement. So that's a little bit more about me and about us.
So quick follow-up on that. You mentioned going to school for product design. Can you give a brief kind of overview of what product design is? And then B, how does data play into product design when you were going through that phase of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. A product design was really kind of where I was first introduced to the idea of using data to build solutions. Product design is any type of designing any type of product that you use today, whether it is a physical product like a water bottle or the trash can behind me through the window that you see here, or a web product where it's experiential, to where you're designing user interfaces and web applications. They have kind of the same basic principles, and data really shapes both of those, because in order to make a product that is something that people are going to want to use, you have to understand what people's challenges are in the space and what you're trying to solve. All products that are created are created to solve some potential problem that a consumer base is facing. And that's no different with fan experience today. And I think it's kind of how we've translated that. My product design experience is understanding what fans want, what they need out of their experience, before just designing something in a vacuum and designing something that isn't targeted to them, that would give them something that they wouldn't necessarily want. So long story short, data really helps us to target the types of solutions that fans want to see in the space.
Awesome. And Mr. Dahy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dahy Kwak. I'm an associate professor at the University of Michigan. So the background you see is what you would envision in the opening day in the fall, but this is not going to happen this year for sure. Michigan Athletics just announced that there will be either no fans or it will be very reduced. Fans will be at the big house. So, but I just wanted to show you how the 115,000 fans sitting in the big house might look like. So I work at the university, meaning that I do research and teach, and I'm in the sport management program. So my main teaching subjects are sponsorship and sports marketing, which relies heavily on the data. And my research area is in a sport consumer behavior and fan psychology. So I do look at lots of the survey data and primary data from sport fans to examine sets of, different sets of hypotheses and research questions. So how I got here. So when I was at your age, when I was in high school, my dream job was to become a PE teacher. Seriously, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to, teach sports and play sports. I grew up in South Korea, in Seoul, where high school students spend like 12 hours a day at school studying for the entrance exam. So physical activity or sport was something that was meaningful for me. So that's what I really wanted to do. So I majored in physical education literally at my undergrad. But as I gradually become, more senior years and then went into master's program, my mentor, who did his MBA from Wharton School, and he just opened my eyes. There's a huge element in the sports, the powerful platform, but also, on the business side of sports that really opened my eyes. So I was really fascinated by, businesses and different stakeholders coming together in a sport. And then I wanted to then pursue my career in sport management. That's how I began to study sport management, did my from the University of Maryland. And my first job was at Indiana University and decided to move to Michigan if I had to move. So this has been my 11th year at the University of Michigan. So doing teaching and researching in sport consumers and sport fans. And what I love about this job, which I did not even envision myself teaching at the University of Michigan when I was at high school, but I get to work with professional industry professionals, either through class engagements or through research or consulting. So that really fascinates me, even though I'm at the university, but I still utilize data, but we speak different languages between, academicians and also practitioners, but we use this data to inform decision-making for various purposes. So that's a quick intro of myself.
Awesome. Destiny, are there any questions that have popped up from through the introductions?
Yes, there has. So you all touched up a little bit on your early stages in your career. So what skills, programs, certifications can students get familiar with specific to your role if they would like to transition into it?
That's a great question. I think from a design perspective, anything that you can be doing to get more familiar with design programs now is great. I think in high school I took a graphic design class. I took a drafting class for architecture, thinking that was where I wanted to go. But there are a lot of classes out there on design and understanding and learning how to get proficient in Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, anything like that. Skillshare.com is a great resource that students can go to understand and learn the basics of those things, especially kind of now when we've got some time in the pandemic, you're stuck at home. It's a great time to kind of learn more about that type of thing if that's something that you're interested in. But yeah, I think that's a great way to get a jump before going into college if you want to get into design. That's a great place to start.
I would also say that we're talking about data analytics here. So I would certainly make sure that, there's obviously a host of coursework out there for you to be kind of a little bit more proficient in understanding data and being able to turn that data into, useful knowledge that you can then translate into some more success with your marketing efforts. So that's one component. Really just kind of diving a little bit more into digital ad placement and understanding those metrics, again, just through the data analysis of what's working, things that you might need to tweak. But if you've got the opportunity to take any coursework, or even I know similar to what Pearson mentioned, and I would have to I believe it's on edX, but I think Harvard was even offering up like some free coursework to be able to better that you could take and to just get some certifications and just make yourself a little bit more marketable in those spaces. So certainly an opportunity there as well.
Yeah, I would just piggyback to what's already been said of just learning and understanding social analytics. For us, we use social media so much in marketing our teams and events and student athletes. So, I mean, even from your own personal social media accounts, you can look into the analytics of your own personal Twitter accounts or personal Instagrams and see how many likes certain photos get versus, and then what times a day are the best times to post and stuff like that. And we use it all the time of just from our sport accounts of looking at retweets and likes and impressions on social posts to just kind of understand what those numbers mean, and then how to change course based upon what you're seeing from those numbers.
Yeah, I would also add on to keep up with your mathematics. Having a good foundation in the mathematics will help you to build on any different type of analysis or other types of statistical methods that you'll be using. As Nick and Zack mentioned, there are some online resources out there. And just to do a PSA here, University of Michigan will be launching sports analytics online, the course, which will be, I would imagine, in 2021. So it will be available for the non-Michigan community to take those courses. But you have to have some fundamental mathematics background to have those skill sets on top of your training. So that will help you to really enhance your the analytical skills in that regard.
Yeah, that's great, everybody. Appreciate it. Were there any others off of that conversation, Destiny, that we can answer before moving on?
Ram, and he wanted to know what was something that caught you off guard when you joined the industry, or more so, what was some sort of adversity that you may have faced upon transitioning into your professional career, just from, our age, high school, college to professional?
I would say that, one of the things that I had this perception, and probably most of the folks on this call had this perception, and it's just, when you go to college, you assume that there's a nice open market out there and you're going to be basically gifted a job because you're so smart and you took all this coursework and you're ready to go. And not to say that you're not going to find a job, but you also, again, just going back to the beginning of the call, is the fact that there's some hard work demonstrated, and Zack mentioned, internships, and I would say we probably all had internships along the way. And you just have to be willing to put in the time and do what you need to do to get to where you want to be. And so I would say that for me, getting fresh into the field, not that I didn't do those things, but I felt that I did all those things. And again, I still had this perception that I was going to easily find a job. And that process isn't as simple as you'd like to think it is. So I think that's where I was caught off guard a little bit getting into the role, but also, again, noting the fact that, like I said, everybody on this call has gone through that at some level. And if you take the time and you put the work in, those things do eventually happen for you. It just might not be as quick as you'd like.
I would even say to that too, one thing that you don't really know. I mean, people tell you these things, but you don't really see it until you're in the business. But you kind of hear the cliche of it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And as high school students now, as you're thinking about college, start now with networking, start now with getting to know people, getting involved in things like this, where you're getting to know people in the industry. Because I can tell you, I haven't gotten a job in this business without knowing someone at that place, or just from my job that I have now. Nick was previously in this position and just kind of reached out when he was progressing onto different things, and just the network of people that you put around you as you're kind of going through your finishing up high school and college days. It's tremendous of how much those people can help you navigate your career and get you into positions that you didn't know was available. I was just on a webinar where people were talking about find the champions in your life, those people that can advocate you and speak your name in rooms that you're not in right now, who can just kind of be there for you and help you along the way. When I first got to college, I had no idea of what I really wanted to get into and what I wanted to do. My freshman year at U of L, I was a CIS major, and I ended up graduating sports administration. So there's just so many things there's so many opportunities in college athletics that you may not know about. So I would say be open to a facet of things. Obviously we all have kind of a marketing background on this call, but data is used in fundraising and ticket sales and facilities, all across college athletics. So I would say be open to different opportunities too.
Kind of to that, Zach, if you want to kind of carry it a little bit further, but why is data important to where you sit today with all the different aspects that you have going on with marketing, and even how it does touch, you mentioned fundraising and operations and everything else that makes an athletic department run?
Well, I would say too, just in athletics, it's just the arms race of college athletics. Obviously Nick was in the ACC and Dahi in Michigan, those bigger programs in the group of five, you're trying to play catch up to those bigger programs. So you can't spend the dollars that they have to market your program. So we have to be really efficient at the group of five level, and just from CFOs and ADs and all those people in those executive seats, it's like, where is the money going, and are we getting results from the dollars being spent? So for us, like I said, obviously our social content is very important, but just in fundraising and how we market to raise money through emails, and it's really studying that data to find out how people want to be marketed to. No longer you can't market to your student demographic the same way you market to your alumni versus how you market to your faculty and staff on campus. So it's looking at all of those various pots that you're trying to gain an interest into your programs with, and looking at how they receive information, and you try to push out information in different ways to those different people. Obviously, students, we market through them through a lot with social media, on Instagram and Twitter, and trying to use other student athletes on TikTok. And then faculty and staff, it's a lot of email. And then for alumni and donors, it's a lot of phone calls. So you market to all those different pots of people differently based upon the data you receive back from them. And data just not only just in numbers, but just in feedback from surveys and things like that too.
That's a great point that, I think that it's something interesting, that data is not just numbers, that it is feedback from surveys and feedback from fans, which I know that we use, at Varsity Partners day to day, and I know everybody on this call does. But Dahi, kind of on the other side, when you're looking at fan behavior, why is data important to you when you are looking at how fans are interacting and engaging, either in stadium or wherever else they are?
Very good question, Tim. As a researcher to look at consumer behavior, and I'm also a quantitative researcher, meaning that I look at the data and I view the world that the things can be measured. So either cognitions or thoughts, feelings, emotions, we try to measure those things as a quantitative research, and then try to put those numbers to predict something, predict the behavior or predict some cognitions or important, meaningful outcomes for for either for just for the research purposes or for the clients. So looking at the data and having a good quality data is so important. Either we're going to augment the existing theory or challenge the existing theory, but we need to have a good quality data. So like I mentioned briefly earlier, I use a lot of survey data, meaning that we collect information directly from fans. So either at the stadium or online, we ask those questions, make sure those questions are aligned with the research question, hypothesis, make sure that we plug in the right amount of questionnaires and also stimuli if you want to put in, and then get the results, make sure that those data are usable. And I just want to also add on to what Zack mentioned. It's not just the numbers, but I really want to emphasize, you don't want to be just the tool. You use the data is just a tool, but you want to have the content knowledge to make meaningful interpretation out of it. So we do have a lot of students from coming out of computer science or coming out of mathematics or economics with all this quantitative discipline background, but you really have to have why this number matters and why do you need to have this number in order to answer that question or solve that problem. So I think that comes, the content knowledge becomes very important along with the analytics as a statistical tool.
Yeah, I think that's another great point, that you have the data as the tool, and then the meaningful interpretation would be the insight, and how you then determine what to do with that data. Because if it's just data sitting there, then there's really nothing that you can do with it. It sounds like Zack, a lot of social media and marketing decisions. Nick, I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat as well. And I was like, off of that with the fan experience, Pearson, why is data important in design? Because everybody else has a lot of actionable marketing decisions or behavioral. How does it apply to design and what we do day to day?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to, excuse me, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with product design. Is before we engage with a client on trying to figure out a solution, and those clients are typically collegiate athletic departments, we ask them kind of what their problem areas are, and any data that they might have to kind of provide us some color as to why those might be problems. And then from there, we work with the department to help them determine the best creative path forward to solve those problems. And it's all influenced by the types of data that they have, or the types of data that they employ us to collect. So, like, for example, one of the things that we had looked at was, from kind of going back to the emotional and the survey side of things, was we worked with the University of Georgia of revamping Sanford Stadium concourse graphics and updating the fan experience there. Well, when we started, one of the first things we asked about was, okay, what type of vibe do fans expect, and what do they want? What type of aesthetic are they looking for when they're walking through the concourse? And there was a decent amount of work done on trying to understand fan sentiment, whether they wanted the program to feel more forward and cutting edge and high tech looking, or if it wanted to be more based in nostalgia, the good old days kind of stuff. And it came back overwhelmingly that Sanford is a historic site. Georgia is a historic football program. They wanted to look like they have that, and that storied tradition. And so that's something that we did. And then on the flip side, looking at something more monetarily, working with University of Pittsburgh on their premium spaces and understanding what types of offerings that they have in those spaces, what do fans want out of their premium spaces. And so collecting that emotional data that Daehee kind of spoke to previously is extremely important in what we do, to make sure that we are giving results to our clients that their fans are going to want to see, and that will resonate, and then ultimately impact the athletic department by building more revenue from the fan base and generally making the fan base happier as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's talking about fans and how they interact, Nick, how do you use data from a conference level with, so many different athletic departments tied in? Like, where are those opportunities to either help inform decisions that they're making for fans, either on the athletic department level or the conference level also?
Yeah, I think primarily for us, a lot of the data that we collect, similar to on campus in terms of for our own purposes with our championship games and having a better understanding of the fan experience, what they like, what they don't like, how we can make it more engaging, how we can drive some of that attendance, make their experience a good one. But then also, as has been mentioned, how we can more effectively market to them. And we're trying to, work within the segments that we have as well and sorting through exactly how to best reach each one of those individuals in a manner that is the most efficient and effective for our spend. So that's one component. And then the second piece is, working with the specific member institutions themselves. So, we do multiple surveys throughout the year, for the most part, conference-wide. And, with that, the thing that it's beneficial for us, not only to better understand what our member institutions are doing on campus and how their fans are engaging with them, but also it allows us to kind of create some buckets of similarities that we're seeing across the board so that we can, help them make some decisions, collectively around what they're seeing on their campuses. So whether it's dealing with, certain things that their season ticket holders are expecting to get in return for their spend, then maybe someone within the conference has a particularly high score with that, and so, or maybe a couple of them, and so then there's a way for us to kind of analyze that and say, all right, well, these guys have had success over here. What are some of the things that you guys are taking a look at? And to the contrast, it can also allow some of those folks who are maybe struggling a little bit to share their story, and so that as a collective group we can discuss it and hopefully help them analyze the problem a little bit. So I think, like I said, from the member side, it's to try to be of assistance from our standpoint, but also to get them talking and peer-to-peer to be able to assist one another.
Yeah, that's great. Being able to take data from a lot of different organizations and, look at them and assess what's working in different areas. I think it sounds like it just allows for a lot of collaboration for the insights to then come to life, to make a stronger conference or whatever that solution is. That's really cool. Destiny, did we have any other questions that you wanted to throw out there?
Yes. So I know that students probably think that you guys' jobs are pretty strenuous. They're learning all this new terminology and stuff. So what is, I would say, one of the most fun aspects or one of the most fun projects that you've ever done in terms of your work? Because I know that you guys have fun. I know that it isn't all just numbers and data. So.
Yeah. Nick, what's the most fun project that you've worked on, bud?
No, I was just going to say I watch sports. So, I mean, it's not a bad gig. No, I'd mentioned early on about getting in on the front end with football with Charlotte. And so I think from a project standpoint, that's probably been the most fun, is to be able to develop that. As I've explained to a number of folks, one of the coolest moments for me was we organized to have a full field flag at our first game. And when I saw like our fans holding onto that flag and pull it across the field, and it was just a really cool moment. And then of course, a little bit later, we scored our very first touchdown on an interception. So it was just seeing that all kind of come together was really exciting. But I mean, again, I know I said, I get to watch sports, which is in part fairly accurate because of the fact that, and fortunately being at Charlotte had afforded me a number of those opportunities, but now at the ACC, very similar, is that, I've gotten to work in NCAA Sweet 16 and Elite 8, and where I was courtside calling a game to, with the ACC tournament and the football championship game. And I've even done some work with the Panthers. So, just having some of those opportunities that, you don't recognize it while you're doing it because it's what you do for your job. But we all have a really cool opportunity to, in front of us that we're able to do some of these things. And when you sit back and have the opportunity to really reflect on it, it's a pretty neat thing to do.
It really is. Dahi, I'm curious what project is at the top of your list?
Every project is fun, like Nick said, because I'm dealing with sports. If I'm working on fantasy football, then I have to play fantasy football. If I'm playing, if my project focuses on sport video games, then I have to download all the newest the video games, and I just tell my wife, this is for my, so I need to have a subscription. I need to buy all those things. No, one project that I like to share with the audience is, although I really like that I did with the Varsity Partners, but just for the fun part of the project that I wanted to share is the one that we did with March Madness. Unfortunately, we didn't have March Madness this year, but one year we had a study on looking at overestimation phenomena, where people fill out their brackets and all of a sudden they believe that their bracket is going to win some money. So we wanted to test that out by giving half of the participants a bracket, but don't let them fill out any on the bracket. But other half of the participants, we actually gave out the bracket and have them fill out the bracket. And then we estimated the likeliness of being in the top 10% of that pool. So here are half of the participants who did not fill out the bracket, half who actually filled out. And their level of college basketball knowledge, past betting experiences, past, everything we controlled for. So there's no statistical difference between the two groups. But what we found was by just filling out the bracket, it elevates the expectation that they're going to win. So just filling out the brackets, they're making 63 predictions on that bracket, enhance the illusion of control, that they have a better prediction as a result. So we followed up with those participants after actually going through all this 3 weeks of March Madness and tracked all their scores, but we did not see any statistical difference between these two groups. So just the act of filling out the bracket elevates their fun. It's going to be, they're going to likely redo the bracket next time. So it adds enjoyment. So that's what we found, and then was kind of interesting just by filling out the bracket.
So what I'm hearing is that we can play 2K, rip a my GM, involve in March Madness, and it's all for the sake of research and data. You guys heard that here. So
absolutely.
Gives you any heck for that. Have them. Zack, what's the project that you've worked on? We've known each other, but I'm just kind of curious what yours is.
For me, it's several things. The thing you love the most about being in the business is just game day, and the project of each week, each game is a different project in itself, and just kind of working day by day, getting to kickoff, and just the atmosphere around game day of what we do, and being able to control the media timeouts and the songs you play and the videos you play on the video board to hype the team up and hype the fans up, and you really feel like if you play the right song and the fans get into it, that you've had an impact on the game. If you walk away, team wins that day, you feel like you had an impact on the atmosphere. And for me, it's been just a really cool experience to be a part of two separate schools' first ever bowl game. I was there at WKU when they were a chance to go to their first ever bowl game, and then being here at Charlotte for our first ever bowl game here as well too. But most recently, a project that we've been working on is obviously our new logo launch. The logo you see here on my polo, sorry, which side I'm on, the reversed. The logo here on my polo, we just released it to the public about 3 weeks ago. So that was a 15th month process of an assessment of our previous family of marks, tremendous amount of surveys, and like I said, just taking the information given from research and just following the data to where it led us to launch a new family of marks. So it was really fun and cool working on all the behind the scenes videos and all the behind the scenes apparel and all the things that basketball court designs, football uniforms, basketball uniforms, football helmets, just all the things that goes into an athletic season, and just kind of having a brand new look to all of that. So it was really cool to get to June 23rd at launch day and having everything finally go public and not working in secrecy for months anymore, just be able to put things out to the public.
That's awesome. Follow up to that, what hype song was like your go-to at Western Kentucky?
Oh man, well at Western Kentucky it was a little bit different from the fan base there, but
Yeah.
for some reason that fan base there loved Cotton Eye Joe. You play Cotton Eye Joe there, they would lose their minds. Late in the game, going into the fourth quarter, just for some reason the basketball fan base there in the second half of big games just kind of lose it there. So that was a go-to song at Western Kentucky.
I feel like there's some sort of data science research project for Dahi to hop into as to why they're crazy for Cotton Eye Joe in the Western Kentucky area.
Yeah.
This is great. I saw a question pop up over here. I think Cole threw it up there saying, I understand how fans can impact the experience of the game, but how do finances affect these decisions? And I think that's an interesting, just kind of like overall question of, when we are making different fan experience decisions, Pearson in our space, like how do finances come in and affect the way that whether we look at design or application or the data that supports it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of what we do when we talk to an athletic department, budget is absolutely something that we obviously have to hammer out first. And so we typically kind of put together good, better, best solutions to choose from, and then find out what's most feasible from the department's budget. And, I think Zack spoke to it earlier of, you have certain channels that you're spending in, and you have to make sure that you're spending properly to get the results that you want and maximize that return on your investment. And so when we look at things, we try and determine within a budget what is most important that for a result that they would get out of that. And then we work together with the team to understand parameters and what we could be doing creatively to be able to maximize the amount of return that we bring to a team based on the budgets that they have. But yeah, I think every project is different, and that's part of what I think I love and what Tim loves about being a part of a consultancy is we're working on all different types of projects with all different types of budgets for teams large and small. Obviously, we've worked with Gardner-Webb before, and they're a small school here in right outside of Charlotte where we're located, and they're going to have a different budget than say UNC Charlotte, and Georgia's going to have a different budget than those. So it all depends on what you have available and what your goals are.
Yeah. I just thought it was a good question that popped up. Wanted to get a little bit of color and context to it. Nick, you had mentioned being at Charlotte when the football team launched, and personally as an alumni, that was a big thing to bring on another program, to be on the forefront of marketing that and doing all the research and everything. What role did data play and insights play into launching a football team from where you sat? Because that's pretty monumental. It doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just had to do with what the community had to offer in Charlotte, and the interest level, and going back to the various segments is really understanding the true interest among everyone from alumni to students to the parents of students to the just general community at large, and how we could take a look at engaging them. And so we worked with a local agency to kind of assist in that process and in doing some of the research and homework on that to better understand how we could effectively tap into the marketplace and drive sales, not only for our seat license program at the time, but also for tickets after the fact. So.
And so with ticketing, I think overall there's always a lot of background of data and insight. How does that play into, I think probably more specifically with you and Zack, at the conference level and at the school level?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that in terms of
data? When you're using data for ticketing, how do you use data for ticketing at a conference level? And then how do you use data for ticketing at a
okay.
level?
Understand. Well, for us, it was a couple different things. I'll start first at the conference level. Some of the data that we're utilizing is so that we can take a look at, with some of our ad spend and stuff, lookalike buyers and figuring out, who are those people that are most likely to buy, as we've talked about the data piece and effectiveness and efficiencies. Obviously just throwing out an ad and blanketing the marketplace isn't as effective as if you can know what some of those people might look like. And so you've got a collective group of buyers who have purchased from you. And so being able to place tracking pixels on your website, so that when those people come to your website or even via social, and being able to collect their information so that when we're going out to market and trying to market to folks, we're able to find people who look and feel like that collective group of people. And so, ultimately, I would say that that's kind of how we really utilize some of that information from a ticketing standpoint. But also, we utilize Ticketmaster for an email send recently, and it's the same approach that we took. Is that we've got a collective group of buyers, and how can we hit the marketplace and hit those same people, not the same list of people, but the same people that look like those people, so that we can churn out some ticket sales. So, and then similar kind of approach when I was on campus. So.
I assume, Zack, it's pretty at least parallel where you are and where you sit today.
Yeah, and I would just add to that too. It's how we set ticket pricing, especially for football season. Obviously, through your 6 home football games you have throughout each year, each game has a different ticket price attached to that, and that price is set for us. It's set off of high-profile opponents coming to Charlotte, rival games coming to Charlotte. Obviously, a couple of years ago when we had App State at home, obviously that's a big rival game for us. So that price point of that game is going to be a lot higher than it is for other games on our schedule, based upon the demand we know that certain games we're going to have. So I would say for us, the data and information we know is how we set price points on tickets.
Cool. Very cool. I know we got looks like 5 minutes left. Destiny, are there any other kind of follow-up questions you wanted to throw in?
Yeah, I wanted you guys to leave us off with some powerful career advice for our students. I know that, all of them are a bit maybe worried, especially with everything that's going on. So how can they navigate pushing through this, and what steps can they really take to put themselves in a position such as you all?
Yeah, that's great. And I'll give my 30-second kind of perspective on it. The sports industry right now is in a time of evolution. And when industries evolve, there's opportunities to put your mark on it. And I think that, as a student watching how the industry evolves, and seeing, looking out a little bit further to where it potentially could go, is always the lens to carry. And yeah, it is tough right now. But it doesn't mean that it's always going to be forever tough. So, when you do go to school and, if you decide to go for sport management, this will absolutely be a time and place in which you study to learn from, to then carry forward and really, change and shape the industry in the way that you see it. I think that that's, how we've been looking at it at Varsity Partners every day, is that it's always ever evolving in thinking and creating new ideas, in innovating, in using data and insights kind of at its base.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback on that, what Tim was saying is, change is scary, but change can also be extremely exciting. And it's something that it's really interesting to see where sports will go from here. This is just a totally unprecedented time, and it's exciting to think about the good that could come out of some of this, and being able to speed up processes. But from just general career advice, I think just generally being open to opportunities and taking it upon yourself to create some personal projects. People have always told me, do the work that you want to be doing professionally on the side as well, so you have a better portfolio of different types of things that you want to do. If it's data related stuff, read up on some awesome data projects and surveys that are out there to better understand, and then conduct your own with your friends. There's low hanging fruit to be had where you don't have to wait for someone to give you an opportunity. You can start creating things on your own right now to show your initiative.
Cool. Anybody else?
I would just say to that too, like Pearson said, I mean, always be learning. Right now, and you may have more free time than you want, but be learning of Photoshop, learn InDesign, learn video editing. Just making sure when you're ready to apply for that first internship, that first job, that you have a immense skill set in a number of things. I mean, in marketing, like I said, it's studying data analytics, it's social media, it's graphic design, it's playing music, writing game scripts. So just be able to wear a many different hats. You can be asked to do a number of different things on a day-to-day basis, and just be prepared for that. So while you have the time, and even once you get into the business, just always be educating yourselves on new trends and new things going on to stay on top of mind.
Yeah, going off of what Zack just mentioned, never stop learning. I think that's key if you're going to work in the analytics field, because the tools that you'll be using today won't be used in next 5 or 10 years. But there are new tools coming out. So just being open and flexible to learn the new methods or tools that are coming out, that will be helpful. And also piggyback on what Pearson mentioned, taking an initiative is a key. As a professor working at the university, looking at students when they graduate who become very successful after they graduate, are those ones that they're just absorb things and taking initiative. If you go to any college now, I think there would be a student group, student association that will be looking into sport analytics. So join that group. If there's none, then create one and make one, and then bring students who are passionate about sports and data, and go from there. So taking those initiatives, I would strongly encourage students to do so.
Hey, so that's great advice to kind of close out on, and I can't thank you guys all enough for what was truly a very informative and fascinating session. To the attendees, again, I think data and analytics is going to continue to be one of the largest and fastest growing segments of the sports industry. So if you've got an interest in it, this is where the future is. So continue to go down that path. And again, if there are existing programs, get involved in them. If there aren't existing programs, start them. That's where it all happens. So thank you to everybody for all of your insights. And all the panelists or all the attendees, please follow up your panelists, follow these gentlemen on LinkedIn, and follow some of the insights that they shared in that forum. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.